please welcome the Chief Robotics Officer for UiPath, Boris Krumrey.
Coming here, let's see. Okay, mic is working. So I wanted you just all come in and settle down a bit. Great. So we're so delighted to have so many people coming and visiting us and hearing about kind of the latest things around robotics. I'm going to talk about our roadmap. So there's a lot of things in there that we have taken from what our customers are telling us, what our partners are telling us. And like Daniel said, we are working very, very close with our customer and partner base, because that's kind of the key thing. A product that doesn't go into the right direction of what our customers or partners are telling us would be the wrong product. So let me talk you through. So when we looked at the product from a kind of holistic end-to-end perspective, the thing that was most important to us to say, what is our end mission, our goal here? What we're trying to do is to develop the truly digital workforce, a platform that you can integrate into any kind of enterprise organization, and it can really work hand in hand with humans. In order to achieve this, we need to think about various factors, and we thought, what are the key factors that the technology must enable, and what are the challenges we need to kind of achieve? And we brought it down to kind of 3 major tracks. The first track is the track about capability. So this is about the scope that we can automate processes. And this includes, of course, AI technologies, machine learning, all this part that makes it more human-like. The next one is around agility. And agility is enabling business agility. So that means that we have to get users, business users, to enable them actually to even create their own RPAs. What can we do there? And most importantly, how quick, how fast, how much can we accelerate the whole implementation of RPA? And the last one is scalability, because it's all very nice if we can do a perfect job in a small kind of setup, but reaching the real scale, this is exactly the kind of the big item. So from that perspective, it's like, so from capability, we come from machine to become more human-like, from the kind of very skilled techie person to actually be able that a normal business user can actually apply robotic process automation, and that even very quickly. And the other one is kind of from a single task to come to a whole workforce. How do you work and orchestrate in a whole workforce? So we have laid out tracks, and this is kind of like a track, and we're saying, okay, on this track, there are key challenges of what we need to kind of overcome or find solutions, and this is what we hear in the market, what is required. So the first one is computer vision. And computer vision, this is not just about identifying the objects on the screen and being able to extract that information intelligently. It's also about kind of converting, doing semi-structured to structured, so OCR, intelligent OCR, and all those challenges. Because why are we doing this? Because a robot is simulating a user. So we're simulating the eyes and the hands of a person. So we have to have super eyes, accurate eyes. The next one is around machine learning. So this is when a rule base kind of comes to a limit, and we actually have to use something like machine learning to help to do something by intuition, to make decisions by the base of experience, and to be trained in this way. So this is one of the key tracks or stations that we find a solution within our product. And the other one is language. So language is twofold here. One is understanding an email, extracting, doing NLP, and extracting the information of what is the intent and what are the entities out of that email that we need to get. The other one is also chatbot or kind of digital assistants, where you have a whole conversation, where you need to have in mind what has said before in order to understand the context in a whole. That's a station for language. And last but not least, reasoning. So that's the more difficult one. Yeah, what are we? You can be hype about it and dream up something about AI technology being kind of self-conscious whatsoever. That's not the way we are going, of course. We're going at far more practical. So here, this is where process mining comes in play. This is where we add another software component that tracks activity, being kind of able to learn, and then having the human supervising and analyzing the activity to then press the button and generate an RPA. So we're accelerating the whole process, and always with the right brains and minds of a human. So let me talk about each station. So the first station, computer vision, as I said, it's about identifying all the objects on the screen. And why is that so important? It's so important when we are reaching the area where it's very much kind of bespoke, custom applications, or remote, or going through Citrix and so forth, where you depend on image recognition. In all the other cases, you can go into the operating system of the desktop, you can go into using an API, it's all fine. But in this case, there you need to be very accurate. And this is one of our strong kind of capabilities of our product, that we have intelligent capabilities exactly identifying that already very accurately. But for the last bit, we are thinking of, or not thinking of, we're actually testing it already, of introducing something like the self-driving software robot. Why do we kind of make this comparison? Because it's almost like a self-driving car. A self-driving car has to identify all these objects and making decisions on, oh, what is this? Oh, this is a human, this is a what? And in the same way, our software will identify, oh, this is a push button, this is a table, this is a combo box. So you don't need to specify that at all. We are making the eyes very intelligent and powerful of the robot. So the robot will know exactly what object you're talking about without needing to be specific in saying, oh, and this is the selector and this is the address. You don't need it because the robot will know. And that's a very, very powerful means to have. That's something where we are investing in our kind of core competence around the software robot. Now, in order to do this, and this is maybe a bit new, and for some who are not so into kind of technical charts, let me just explain a few things. So what we're introducing is something like an IPA system, or it's something that where if you think of a self-driving robot, or a robot that identifies objects and so forth, there's a lot of processing involved. And in order to do this, we are now introducing something like an IPA system, where we have one component for the deep learning, because we are using deep learning for identifying those kind of graphical objects and so forth. And we have that in a separate system we call the IPA system. This IPA system will also be open to allow other components to be integrated as well as we enable and will continue always to enable to have our robots directly use all kind of AI functionalities, libraries, and so forth. So we're going both ways, and this is kind of a bit of an architecture picture. But it helps to explain because somebody will come, well, wait a minute, if you're doing something like self-driving cars, there's a lot of processing involved. There's a lot of kind of how do you do this? You're not going to have a heavy robot, and that's exactly how we have designed it. But it will ensure that you have one unified library to kind of talk to using all the machine learning and AI technologies. So let me talk about, so I talked about computer vision in terms of what the robot is doing and the eyes of the robot. Let's talk about the computer vision in regard to intelligent OCR. And we have a strategic partnership with ABI, and we have integrated ABI, and we, in the next version you will see a much tighter integration. And this is kind of how it looks like when you look at the way how RPA is integrated with ABI. So in this sense, the RPA will collect the data, manage all the exceptions, and all the actual validation with the backend system is done by RPA, whereas all the actual kind of object extraction, template data extraction, and so forth, and verification of the data itself is done, for example, with FlexiCapture. We have used FlexiCapture because it's one of the strongest products that we have seen in the market, and also our customer base is using ABI very strongly. and it works very, very well in combination with our product. The next thing is around decision making. So we talked about the computer vision decision making. This is about machine learning. And what the most important thing about machine learning here is that we want to have a means that we can kind of learn about certain cases and then make a decision upon it. The biggest point around it is classification. Being able to classify, is this an incident, a change request, whatever it might be, so it is identified. And for that, you first train the system with samples, and then it's able to classify and extract the information accordingly. So here also you have various technologies that we are integrating with from Google, Microsoft, IBM, and so forth. But one of the technologies we're also giving through us here in vCell is ABY technology. It's part of the Compreno suite is the smart classifier. So we can show you even examples, and if you join later on the technology track, you will see more examples, and they will explain a little bit more how that really works. So smart classifier will enable exactly that. So you can identify all the documents or any kind of unstructured document that comes. You can train the system, provides a UI interface, and we will integrate very tightly with this technology. Let me also talk about human dialogue and chatbots. Now, the key thing is we are not going to develop our own chatbot kind of environment. That's actually would be the wrong approach, because they are very powerful tools out there. And one of the tools that we have seen is kind of very strong is the Dialogflow.com, which is actually API AI. It's a Google product. It is really capable of extracting, identifying the intent, extracting the information. But what we want to make ensure is that it then can trigger off an RPA. So the nice thing about that technology, it connects to all the dumb Alexas and all these Google Assists. But with that technology, you can certainly, for your own environment, enable a new interface, voice user interface for people to register, to do all kinds of things, and then being triggered off to the RPA, to the orchestrator, to then trigger the RPA and perform that manual, whatever data entry or whatever task. And we are planning to integrate even more. I mean, we are very keen to work with the IBM Watson team. So this is where we see our strength, in putting the right connection, the right technologies, the best technologies together to make something work. We also know that it's not enough just to have something like this component that does the NLP extraction. You also need something to switch over to a human, because how else will you ensure kind of customer satisfaction? If the person gets too frustrated, then it becomes really like the dumb robot. So that's definitely one of the very important parts that you need to put in. And last but not least, of course, we can use the RPA to collect the knowledge and feed the system with more knowledge, whatever conversations or data has been kind of answered. Let me talk about the next stop was process or reasoning, and I'm explaining process mining. So let me see it like this. So just look at the first one up there. So this is Celonis. Celonis, you can tap into the ERP system, and actually in the ERP system, all the information is there. How many cases have been processed in which process and all that. With that information, you actually apply the 3 V's, which is you find out the volume, the variety, and the velocity. And if you have the combination that there's a high volume, a low variety, so highly standardized or less or more standardized, and very slow velocity, that's the ideal combination where RPA applies. So you can do that and discover that with Celonis today already. You can also find when it's actually variety high, that's an interesting area for compliance verification. And that's actually an ideal area also for RPA, because for all the compliance things, RPA is so powerful to do all the work. all the gathering, the verification work, and so forth. I predict that in RPAs, one of the biggest areas of pools we can harvest is around the compliance and risk area. Now, what we are going to add to this is we have this kind of smart recorder that we will launch. So you can install that in the desktop. It will only extract the activity information, nothing about the person itself, just the activity information. And the activity information will give us the apps, the screens, the clicks, and whatever data has been kind of processed. But what it doesn't give us is what process. So we're going to apply some intelligent machine learning models to actually generate that, oh, this is the pattern, this is probably a particular purchase process, and detect those processes and create case IDs. With that information, we can feed it into Celonis. And we'll do that together with the partnership of Celonis, because they are really experienced in all the data analytics as well. And it will enable you to get totally new insights. In the insights of what a user is really doing. It's all nice if you know what's happening in Oracle, SAP, or any kind of ERP or Salesforce, but here you get the full view. And this is kind of the next thing where it's so important, because this is the loop, what we're trying to do in how do we resolve, how do we tackle self-learning. So, and the way we are tackling this is if you have the recording and you go through the entire process of you get you assess the process, you can make the best selection of the particular process chain that you would like to automate. Click the button, it generates the RPA, the kind of skeleton RPA. You then can sit together with the subject matter expert, finalize it as the RPA developer, and then put it to deploy. You run parallel. So this is an interesting part where what we're seeing about unattended, attended robots. So you can use the attended robot to run in parallel, because then it's really in control of the human, kind of seeing whether it's doing all the right things, running for somewhere, and then putting it into production in the backend, which needs to be monitored and alerted. And through this loop, you can actually have the self-learning part, because we're learning what the user is doing, and we have that kind of real solution to bring that into a kind of a change, improvement, a kind of a circle of a supervised self-learning orchestration. So this is where we're visioning, where we want to go with Celonis, adding these additional components and making kind of our systems more and more clever in generating RPAs in a very, very fast way. The next thing is about agility. So the first thing is about the user enablement. That means kind of, less technical, more in the capability of kind of creating your own RPAs. And we are already very good at this. I mean, we have customers that are making their subject matter experts, their people who use to do the process, the actual RPA programmers. And this is only possible if you have a software that enables that. We are going to have more integrations, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. And there's going to be more about RPA libraries, frameworks that are ready for reuse, that you can just link in a much more effective way. So the first thing is around kind of making things more simpler. So we're also constantly exploring how can we even make it simpler, like IFTTT or MS Flow, or add some more kind of simpler rule methods. We're already kind of in a good position to do things faster, but what is kind of easier to do? And the suggestion from our customer advisory council was, why don't you invite the users and have that conversation? And we will, to go down that path. The other path is the Celonis path, so you'll get all the data. You see that it's a proper Celonis screen showing you all the particular process steps and so forth, and then being able to generate and import the RPA skeleton into UiPath Studio. So we are integrating a whole bunch of technologies. And there's also a part of technologies that we are going to integrate, which you don't see right here, but it's actually already in works in the next release. it's all the dashboards and the data analytics. So we'll provide Spotfire, we'll provide Tableau, predefined dashboards that you can import and give you more information around all the details that is in the orchestrator to make really powerful use of. The BPM world is coming closer to us. They certainly realize, oh, wait a minute, here are some guys here's technology that allows us to do things much faster because they have the quick kind of return of investment compared to large, traditional BPM projects. But there's a symbiosis, and I will talk about this a little bit more. Integration of machine learning, all the cloud environments. So it's going to be a big thing. You're going to see far more from us in terms of how to integrate, how to apply it, and provide you more training around this, and provide you also technical support. The big thing for us here in this year was kind of, from a technology perspective, was the integration with Oracle and the Oracle Cloud Platform for various reasons. Because Oracle, from a technology standpoint, offers very, very kind of key add-ons that are really exciting for us. So the first thing, of course, we have our process designer, that's fine. The second thing is we have the Oracle Process Cloud Service. So with that cloud service, you can orchestrate or define all these kind of BPM process maps, and you could actually orchestrate a lot of, if you have a large scale of RPAs running, all the exception handling and so forth, you could be easily integrated into the Oracle Cloud PCS and manage this. They have extensions on next best decision and kind of some adaptive intelligence mechanisms and so forth that you can then also leverage and make use of. The other part is the integration cloud service. The integration cloud service from Oracle, in the same way like MuleSoft, will allow us to integrate in all kinds of other environments. And they have more than 100 adapters into other environments that will also connect to us. And last but not least, actually a very exciting point which I wanted to come to because it is part of our future vision where we want to go with RPA. The self-service integration is like an IoT wrapper around an RPA. So I can define an RPA that is the digital recruiter. So you send through a profile and it will go through all the JobServe databases and find you the right profile. So if you have written up and created that RPA, you can use then the self-service integration from Oracle to kind of put that around. It's not just Oracle, it's like Zapier. And we also will look at Zapier. And that then, as a service to offer, is so powerful because now you can take a Google Sheet or whatever, or your Excel sheet or your SharePoint, and connect it to the IoT service, actually your RPA. And it will really kind of be the virtual worker of something. So a particular function and role and activity, you bundle up and create something like a digital worker as a service. And that's an interesting vision. So we are thinking around something that is called something like a managed IoT service. So this technology is a great symbiosis. So also to allow, for example, certain activities like in financial accounting, kind of monthly end, imagine you have that for SAP, yeah? You have that as a digital service, which you just can configure, put the parameters in, and it just does it. Nice vision, but our customer counsel would say, oh, what about security there? That's a real aspect, needs to be considered, no doubt. Security is big. But as a vision, it's probably where it may be going. So complexity, how are we resolving complexity? We have a new mechanism in the next releases that allows you to really reference and import other big, larger libraries in a very easy way. So in this sense, you can grow kind of a whole bunch of ready-made other libraries. And we are thinking of actually adding something like an RPA marketplace. We also are investing a lot in localization. So with Japanese, we started. But our approach is not just to kind of let's make it a studio kanji enabled. It's more important to ensure that all the trainings, all the documentation, and all that is actually in Japanese. than just focusing on, okay, at least we can do kanji on our software. So this is what we are doing, and you see we already kind of what we have in plan here. So with the community edition, you actually have a full test drive system. You can take 2 robots, an orchestrator. The community edition is a full functionality, so you can develop and test and really get your hands on things. As well as all the online training, the Academy 2, we're doing heavy things there. And we also are working on something that we call an RPA Navigator. A tool that kind of we thought of could be useful for implementing RPA programs. So one is kind of to manage the whole knowledge transfer to robots. The other is to help identify opportunities, process automation opportunities. And we're kind of working on this, and we're planning to launch this. But it's definitely something that we thought will be useful for our customers. The next area is around scalability. So we already have a very reliable, unattended RPA platform. The big thing is security. And we hear from our customers, forget scalability if you haven't, addressed security properly. And that's where we are going to definitely provide more services around. So we'll provide more documentation around and help with the, convincing and talking to your IT departments so that they feel comfortable and say, oh, okay, it's all secure according to our standards. Managing large scale, ensuring that we can kind of more than 10,000 bots. And orchestration is a very, very important point. Because once we are growing with all the technology, with the bots, they need to be kind of meshed in with the large organization and really be working in a very simple way with each other. So on security, we are going to provide a more granular level than you see usually today. We're going to provide an ability to select even just a resource within a kind of role-based security setup that you can secure separately. And you can define it in whatever measure and cascaded structure you want. We'll provide more transparency around the whole auditing trails, features around data masking and more work queue encryptions. All these kinds of features we're going to provide going forward. And we actually have quite a good reputation of government agencies that are already kind of working with our technology and have accredited our security capability. So large scale. So the good thing about our architecture is it's designed in a way that it can run in a cloud, in an on-site, in what kind of mixture. So we're going to provide it in all cloud platforms, but we're also going to go further and provide virtualizations. Virtualizations in terms of infrastructure virtualization, so Dockers, and being able to integrate closely with Citrix and VMware to allow that you can kind of scale up and scale down robots as needed. That's something that isn't there in the moment in the market, but it's needed, and it's really needed because if you have kind of a large volume transaction processing to be needed, and that's exactly what this technology can provide, and it does it dynamically. So it's really only allocated when it's really required. We already have, and this is our community edition in the cloud. It's a single cloud instance. We're already running more than 7,200 robots. It just proves how our architecture, how scalable our architecture is, and it's growing every day, and we have no issues with it. It runs about more than 5,300 processes, so it's quite an interesting environment. We also, like I mentioned, the Citrix integration, so we're going to have this capability, the tightly integration, and then far more kind of monitoring capabilities, dashboards. Monitoring was one of the other aspects. that came out yesterday in our advisory council, which we are going to have a very close look. So making that easier, making it, it's almost like the automation on top of the automation. And maybe we're going to have something like an autopilot. But that's probably where we need to go when we really scale RPA. And these dashboards you just saw, these dashboards are dashboards that we are going to provide in the next release as a predefined that you can have from us in Kibana, but also in Tableau and other environments. So orchestration, very, very important point. So when we see that you have the component of the human, the attended, the unattended robot, and the AI platform. All that, handoffs and working together, need to be orchestrated. So for that, you need something like a case management system. So it should be as easy as just saying, okay, I'm now handing it over to the robot Poppy, and I know Poppy is in charge for processing invoices. And only when Poppy can't or has kind of low confidence about a particular case or recognition, it will hand it back to the approver or to the end user. And that's exactly how this is going to work. And the interesting thing is, it's a combination of, this is where BPM actually had kind of solved more the scalability point around orchestration by integrating case and workflow. And here's where workflow case management comes together with RPA. Because in a large scale environment, that's exactly where you want to go. And it allows that if you set out kind of on a case management basis, the collaboration already by assigning cases to each other and handing it over to each other, you can then feed in the robots one by one without the organization kind of getting very much confused. That's how you prepare then for large scale in unattended robots. With attended robots, it's of course much easier because the direct interconnect to the human with the robot is there. But we're not exploring actually the capabilities of the attended robot much. We could do much more. It could really be like an assistant. So whenever you do something, our robots can detect what you're doing and can maybe help. So you're filling in something and then it can immediately say, why don't you do this? So it's also something that we have been thinking of and see how we can make that work even easier or find more cases to embrace that. Or you can use the attended robot to trigger any unattended robots. So when you put this all together, you have this metro map. Somebody says, oh, there's the colors of London. Maybe, it just seems to be that we use the colors of London, YouTube. But the nice thing is that you can also see the interconnections, right? You can see integrations contribute to scope. Compliance, risk, compliance, security is part of the scope, but it's also part of scalability. And complexity is also part of a scalability challenge. And along those lines, we are going to provide solutions and kind of integrate and provide more solutions for each of these points to you. So from a roadmap schedule, so the next release is going to have more kanji support. So especially for the Japanese market, you see a tighter integration into flexi capture, so the intelligent OCR. You see more adaptation, especially for enhanced Windows 10 UI automation and our predefined dashboards, which I mentioned in Spotfire, Kibana, Tableau. On the agility part, you see more integrations with BPM systems. You already saw kind of systems like NewGen or Oracle, of course. But there's a whole lot more that we are working on that we are integrating. We're talking to K2. So there's a number of integrations currently running. We're also talking to SAP. So this is one of the big areas that we are kind of supporting to enable this integration, and even create something like a marketplace for that, so that's easy to have lots of technologies integrated. We're also going to provide you with something that we call a ready-made RPA run framework. So when you run RPA in large scale, there's a lot of kind of things of how to do best the logging of certain things and the kind of operating together, the exchange of, how to with work queues and so forth. So we give you like a ready-made framework of best practice to operate RPA very, very efficiently. And we're also going to introduce something like a concurrent and named licenses concept. So that also makes it easier if you have kind of more passive robots towards kind of active robots. On the scalability front, this release will be proven to have more than 10,000 robots, so there's no limit. And you will see going forward in 2018, we will have installations that reach that kind of size. We have more auditing features, so more information around auditing, more control over auditing, and we also will have something like a human-to-robot work queue orchestration. What that means is that when there's any kind of exception or so forth, it actually can trigger the human using through a work queue item. That's very useful when we integrate with case management systems, but it's also useful in case you don't have a case management system, you have that very basic kind of mechanism around this handoff and in human in the loop, just done by our orchestrator. The next big release is around human-robot orchestration. So this is actually the big release where all the other AI, machine learning, all these features, the cognitive features will be fully integrated. We will have our first IPA system. This IPA system will predominantly be for the deep learning and recognizing of objects, so kind of the deep learning robot. And we will introduce the integration with the process intelligence, so the smart recorder that we were talking of. The extensions around ABY Compreno is going to be in there. So in this sense, you have the full suite of doing classifications, so machine learning, decision making, but also doing all the other things like NLP extractions and so forth. All that will be provided. We'll have integrations for you for a digital assistant. So that will kind of be an easy to apply mechanism. The navigator we've been talking about, some far more enhanced trainings. So there's a lot more that kind of, from a richness, this is kind of probably the platform that is really a big extension in terms of add-ons and capabilities. Scalability-wise, so we're working with Oracle on a kind of an Oracle Cloud Edition. What just means is that you can, through Oracle, have an RPA extension using BPS or using connecting to any kind of other ERP technology using the RP, the Oracle Cloud environment as a Cloud Edition. And we'll provide more data analytics enhancements. So all the kind of key areas that we hear that our customers and partners talking about that are relevant for us to move forward here. And non-persistent VDI, that means like this scaling up and down kind of foundation that we need there. For the digital workforce in the end, there's a bit more that we are going to integrate. So from the infrastructure virtualization, meaning that you really kind of spawn up the virtual machines with robots as you need, as well as kind of having far more activity libraries and industry RPA solutions. So we're kind of trying to gather and build industry solutions together with our partners as RPA bundles. And as you see here as well, we're kind of also looking at, well, probably when you do AI and you define an ontology of how to kind of understand the particular intent and all that, maybe we need one new common AI interface. So there will be whatever kind of UiPath AI Studio extension. And that's kind of going to be the path where we're going. So with this, I'm actually run through the roadmap here. And I'm open for questions. Yeah. Yeah, because what we believe is when you actually pardon?
Repeat the question.
Oh yes, thank you. So the question is here, it's about tell us more about the kind of voice user interface, the kind of more cognitive part, kind of interacting with humans. And that's oops, that's true. We are going to, the way we see it is in order to actually operate with AI and understand what it is doing, because it learns and makes its own decisions in a sense. We, in order to trust it for us as humans, we need to be able to convey to it and talk to it. So the cognitive way is kind of the first important step. So this is why we are integrating, using those technologies that are very powerful, that allow kind of the voice interpretation and so forth, and connecting it to the RPA world. So what we're actually doing, and this goes very much into what Craig has said, for the kind of enterprise support of using kind of digital assistants. There you're going down to a particular transaction question or whatever you want to kind of inquire. And in order to support this, you use that technology, and it's very clearly defined, the path. There's certain things, information you want to kind of get and have supported for. So the function, the scope of that chatbot or digital assistant is very, very clearly defined. So when I interact, I know I can expect it answers question about HR policies or anything I want to relate to HR. And that's exactly what RPA can provide, because the back end of answering, getting that information, going into the systems, running some other intelligence search machines, that's exactly what it can provide. So is that, the question is, I mean, is that the interesting path to go? Is there anything that we are missing? Please.
When you talk about NLP as kind of the future,
Yeah.
and unstructured data and kind of
Yeah.
PDF type documents, how do you see that as UiPath expands?
Well, the moment we embed technologies that are already very ahead in terms of doing that. So when we look at the Abby info extractor, that's almost quite capable of doing this. And there's also other products that have far more flexible kind of way to on the fly configure different ontologies. So we will select and embrace for you the right technologies that we are going to integrate. Yeah. Yes, please.
Can you do what you're doing? Sorry. Can you continue to do what you're doing with the success you're doing without process mining? And how critical is process mining to your own roadmap and success?
Well, as you've seen, process mining is kind of the key to accelerate the whole implementation of RPA, because it gives you the full insight of what's really doing. You'll probably, when you implement RPA, experience how difficult it is to find what is the right, best opportunity for RPA, to apply RPA. You have to go like a change management program. You have to talk to the users, you have to get the information and all that. That's a lot of work. And this process mining component will help you to have that done in a silent, in a non-invasive way. So that's the power of it. It will also kind of give us ears of what users are really doing, and will enable okay, what is really happening around the process? And Salonis will kind of visualize this in a way so that humans can, not a data scientist, but a process expert or a subject matter expert can see, oh, this is where the deviation is. Why are we doing this? And you can make the right decisions of what's the scope that I really want to automate. It's really kind of we see this as a very, very powerful means to actually apply it in a most successful way. It just really makes RPA even, it's like, you're seeing exactly where you need to go. Yeah? It's like a compass.
What are the steps are you taking to make RPA an option in the regulatory industry?
That's a very good point. It's kind of something so first of all, we need to address all the security requirements. the second of our software itself. Secondly, we will be working with partners who are very familiar in this area so that we can develop solutions that we even can put up in our RPA marketplace for our customers. That marketplace is going to be for our customers. So they can actually change their kind of best practices, their RPA solutions, and offer them to others. And we are also kind of, so besides of working with people who are very familiar in this particular area, we will of course also, we are looking into, because we also have a chief solution architect, right? So he's looking into particular industry areas and seeing to have people who have that particular knowledge to drive also our own development in solutioning and working together with partners who have more experience in this area to find kind of best practice solutions.
Question right here. Hello. You're on the right. Yeah. Are you going to be looking at a fully hosted service, meaning for both the orchestrator and the bot farm?
As a managed service in the cloud?
That's correct.
Yes. So, I mean, the fully hosted service, the orchestrator is already fully hosted, the community edition. Yeah. You can also put, of course, the robot itself in the cloud. And we are working on a concept around a managed service. So as a basis, yeah, that's to have it all as a fully hosted service available so that you can just order it from the cloud, as well as we are going to have something working out together with Oracle and the Oracle Cloud solution. So the answer is yes.
All right. So really the golden jewel really for RPA is to be able to have some more adaptive type of robotics, meaning that as exceptions come along, that the bot can be retrained very quickly. In terms of the overall roadmap, and it was very impressive. Can you walk us through really a vision of what that might look like without having to reopen the bot, retrain the bot? Is there a path towards that?
So to answer that question, one of the studies that one of our partners in the BPO services area who serves customers like Google and Microsoft, they've done an own assessment of how much rule-based towards AI, adaptive and all that really do we need over the kind of future curve. And it turned out when they looked at it, what is really, where they really need AI, it was only for particular areas like decision making, unstructured to structured, predictive analytics, human dialogue, those kind of things. But everything else was actually really well covered with the rule-based, which is it's predictive, it's clear you can control it, it's like software. So when I show you that graph, I can show it to you later on, and if you'll come to the technology track, you'll hear more about it. You can see how much actually more it is in the RPA area. So the reality is actually most of it you can really very well cover with the rule-based, and you'll include into the rule-based exactly then these kind of machine learning, decision-making, or whatever adaptive technologies. So you don't need to kind of think about, okay, see, I know there are two camps in the market. One camp is the data analytics camp and machine learning, and the other one are the RPA AI guys, which are we. So the data analytics guys, they say, oh no, we do predefined kind of machine learning models. I can cover rule-based. But what it turns out with customers who tell us we're going down that path is like, well, we could constantly have to validate the data, and it's kind of more intensive. But it makes much more sense to use the RPA to generate a lot of data and then use the analytics and so forth. That's the powerful means. So don't try to, just because you have a hammer, everything isn't just a nail. So, and then also you're kind of a bit locked into whatever technology you're using there. So the nice thing about the RPA approach is that it's open. So you can really kind of integrate what you need and how you need it. So I hope that answers your question. Last question?
In today's world, we are seeing a lot of your web-based applications or websites and stuff. They're very repulsive towards robots using their sites. and we're facing challenges when you're trying to do any automation around that. What is your workaround, or what's your vision around that?
I didn't quite understand the question. So.
If a robot is going and accessing any website today,
Yeah.
there is a very much instruction that a robot shouldn't be accessing our site. And when we're trying to do automation of, let's say, data research or anything around that, we're facing challenges in that. So what's your suggestions or vision or roadmap for addressing something like this?
So you're saying the robot is not able to go onto particular websites or cannot kind of extract information?
Robot can, but the site instructs that robot shouldn't, and only humans should.
Well, good question. I kind of a site that, well, the current protection of stopping robots using a particular website is this, what is it called, CAPTCHA? Yeah. So this distinguishes whether you're a human or a robot. That's a very strange Turing test. Here we go. What can we do in that? I mean, if someone protects, it's like someone says, okay, I'm protecting, applying security to enforce and to protect me from other cyber kind of attacks. So it's kind of robots against robots. In the same sense, if you really want to lock down your website not to be accessible to robots or whatsoever, I mean, it's something that we haven't really kind of thought that this is a big demand in terms of enabling it. But if that's really a demand to kind of circumvent, then I'm happy to hear more. Yeah, that's all I can say. Yep.
Great job, Boris.
Thank you.
Hold on.